Let's see what if we can get a friend on the phone. We have Amanda Siebert, hopefully. Ring, ring, ring on the phone. So Amanda's in Vancouver, and sometimes it takes a while for the old Skyperoony to get across there. Ringity-dingity. Oh, I thought this was going to be easy to do. Are you there, Amanda? Oh,
Yes, I know.
I can actually see you, but don't worry about it. It's okay. We can actually see you, but I can only see you. But how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So, Amanda, tell us. I told everybody that you are a journalist, and that the strange thing about you that I noticed was that the time when I had my experience with you having a long interview on the phone, and then seeing the article you wrote, it was incredible how well you wrote it. So,
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks so much. That was such a fun experience. I mean, being able to share your story, like being a comedian and going through all of that, and I don't know, it's just so wonderful. And I'm so grateful that I was able to share it a second time in my book. So,
well,
very
that is
cool.
amazing. So that is the thing. Is I wanted to talk about just to get it straight, because I used to live in Vancouver. So you had the Georgia Strait forever, and then the Cannabis Strait was a new publication of theirs. They decided to get going. So were you writing for the Georgia Strait prior to that?
Yeah, so more or less, Straight Cannabis was just like a separate website that where we just like featured out most of our cannabis stuff. But it wasn't necessarily like a separate print publication. But yes, I did start at the Straight sort of as a generalist. I did like a little bit of everything, like music, art, all sorts of like different things. I wrote about beer a lot, and within that, I sort of wrote about cannabis too. And then that sort of just blossomed, I guess, into focusing specifically on cannabis, and it is a lot of fun.
And did you say you wrote about fear? Is that what you said, or did I mishear you?
No, beer.
Oh,
sorry.
beer. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and now you are exclusively writing for Straight Cannabis, and you've written a book.
No, sorry, not for Straight Cannabis. I'm writing actually as a freelance journalist, but I am writing strictly about marijuana, weed, pot.
Right. Okay.
What have you. And so, yeah, I worked actually at the Georgia Strait until about May, and then I decided to head out on my own, and yeah, it's been kind of fun to do sort of work about cannabis, but different kind of writing. You know, I'm doing some copywriting and some article work and all sorts of different stuff. So, yeah, it's lots of fun to be focusing on cannabis.
That is good. So, I'm sorry I missed you in Toronto, but why were you here? And were you promoting your book?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was actually in Toronto just for a couple of days over the Remembrance Day long weekend. And yeah, it was because I had a little event at the Hot Box with Abby Roach. Really cool of her to sort of host me. It was just a really simple event. I think I just read like part of my introduction. It's not really a book that you would do a reading from per se. But yeah, it was really neat to just be in that environment. It was actually my first time in Toronto, and I feel like such a child saying that because I feel like it's like, you know, a place that everyone goes to when they're in high school or so. I don't know. For some reason, I just hadn't been there, and yeah, it was really cool to like explore the city, and everyone was super friendly, and yeah, I managed to find cannabis despite the whole OCS thing. So yeah, it was really exciting.
Can you share with us? So let's set this up for the listeners around the world and the different provinces. This is what's so fun and so ridiculous about Canada's new system. So we have 10 provinces and some territories, and I believe they all have different laws and rules, which are interpretations of the federal government's laws and rules, none of which are soundly based on facts and scientific awareness of what we all brought them to make laws out of. But tell us exactly, like, what are you doing as a person coming from BC? Just the notion that you would need to come to Toronto and find yourself some weed when you're coming from BC in the first place, on its face is ridiculous. You're a crazy person right there.
Well, To be fair, I guess I did bring a little bit with me because you can do that now.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is exciting. But you know, I just found that I guess you know being part of the community, you know, people were just willing to be really generous.
Yeah.
And you know, there were some people that had their home grows that they were sharing with me, and it was just really cool because I've never really been exposed to East Coast strains, I guess,
Oh,
in
yeah.
that way, and it was just kind of neat. And
So where
yeah,
did you say you were getting this cannabis from when you came here? The stuff that was given to you. Who gave that to
just
you?
like
Nobody
through friends.
named.
It was just like through friends. It was just like gifted. You know, people were
Okay.
like, "Oh, you want some shatter? You want some flour?" I was like, "Yes, yes, yes." Happy to share. There were some trades happening. It was just sort of cool. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, definitely access-wise, I think I was staying in Kensington for part of the trip, and I found that there was maybe one dispensary still open there, and then I had heard that there was maybe one or two other ones
Well, they are
throughout.
getting shut down, but they are getting
Yeah,
shut
but
down the mainstream. But we do have basically a black market, gray market that continues to exist. The folks who know what's going on are still using them, and we're losing some mainstream. But we knew that was going to happen. And
Yep.
but basically still using it anyway. And I'm going to put it to you, Amanda. I don't want to shock you or anything, but there's a very good chance that the cannabis that you partook was not really legal cannabis because
Yeah.
they might not, if they ordered it from our official retailer, which is only available online. There's a very good chance they didn't even get it sent to them yet. So
Yeah,
I don't know what you were smoking.
totally. Well, I actually was lucky enough to be hanging out with someone who did receive a package, and we did try some government cannabis.
What did you think
Uh,
of it? What did you get?
well, the stuff that we tried was from 7 Acres, and I was actually surprised. I thought it was really good. Well, not surprised. I mean, I've heard really good things about their cannabis, and it was pretty good. But there were other things that I saw that were like just flattened out, like really like not like what we're used to in British Columbia, I guess. And
Yeah.
I'm sure stuff that you're used to finding on the unregulated market in Ontario. I mean, yeah, the quality for the most part, I find. I've seen a bunch of it, a bunch of government weed, at least here in BC, and I don't know, that it leaves much to be desired at times, but there are definitely people that are working towards creating better products, and so I don't know. I hope that it gets better.
Yeah, well, I guess they're going to need the time they say they're going to need, but I just really resent the fact that they, insisted they were going to be ready. Like, you don't get to say it's early and, we're not sure when you said you were going to be ready. You should have been saying, I don't know if we can do this. I really don't know if we're going to. That, at least it would have been on top of things. It would have been truthful.
Yeah, I mean, there were some issues in BC with like some of the biggest companies, biggest LPs who had promised like a certain amount of product, and I think I saw this. I forget what news site it was on, but they had failed to deliver. They obviously didn't name which ones they were, but someone from the wholesaler here had said like, oh,
Right.
well, they're not. They're promising us X amount, but that's not what we're getting.
Okay, so help us out a little bit because I don't know all these things. I mean, I can't keep track of every single provincial deal. So you're from BC. It says that the BC Liquor Distribution Branch, that's where you buy your booze mostly? Is that where you get it?
Yeah. So I know in Ontario you have like the beer store and LCBO.
Right.
In British Columbia, it's just like one store. It's the BC Liquor Store. You go there for your spirits, your beer, your wine, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so they also have, do they have other places you can get it, like wine stores and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can definitely go to like a private wine or beer store or wherever where you'll pay a little bit more, but they also have like the same kind of selection. It's not separated by like varieties of alcohol.
Right.
And so that like the liquor distribution branch is also now running British Columbia's public cannabis branch, if you will. So they have like one store in Kamloops, a physical store that you can go to and buy product from the government, or you can buy it online. And apparently it ships in like 3 to 4 days, which I hear is a lot better than Ontario. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried it out yet, so I'm not sure.
In Ontario, it takes 3 or 4 days of waiting on hold to find out they don't know where your order is. So it's a little bit better
Man.
where you
The
guys
horror
are at.
stories.
Yeah,
They're
it's
so
unbelievable. I mean, I know someone that has they made 3 orders on the day. They made an order right after midnight, an order in the wee hours of the 17th, and then another one before noon. And the second two have shown up, but they are still waiting for even confirmation on the first one or anything about it. So,
that's crazy.
but then you're buying stuff from people that you don't really know who it is. You can't even really try it out. And I have to say, like, it's very strange for me to think that you're not able to look at this stuff or try it or sample it or anything. And, like when you go to your friend's place who used to sell it, and they might even twist one up and say, hey, try this. You could smell it. Go, oh, that smells nice. Give me a bit of extra of that one, and you can't do this with the, but I really don't understand it, but I heard some things. I don't know if you heard this at all, but on the way to legalize, let's say back as far as around, I don't know, 6-8 months ago maybe, I heard this from the States, but I think it was also, I just want to get your take on it, that there were official needs and requests. I wish I had this better filed in my head right now, but basically they wanted to make sure that people working in this industry weren't all that experienced. They didn't really want people who are experienced, because I think the thinking was, if you're experienced, then you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you were doing this before legalize. If you're doing it before legalize, you're a criminal. If you're a criminal, we can't trust you.
I see.
Okay. So now we can't hire a person that knows what's up. Now I got to hire this other person over here who has just as much chance of turning out a snow cone at Dairy Queen as they do of properly sealing up my 8th. So I think that there's this, I really do think that there is a mindset in the growers, not the growers, but the regulators, the governmental bodies. They don't want a lot of people knowing how it works, how well it works, what to do about it. They don't want people with skills. And this is obviously turned up, and they've done a great job of finding people without skills. We can't even find out how many there are in this province. I mean, it's really messed up. What do you think about all that? Have you heard things to that effect?
I haven't heard about the American stuff, but that doesn't surprise me. I know that, like, within some government bodies, like at the provincial level in BC, there's not, there is actually an interest in working with people that know what they're doing, only because I would say that the people that are running this are well aware of British Columbia's history with cannabis, and they can't really afford to negate all of that. So I think rather than doing that, they're trying a little bit in the very limited way that they can to bring some people in. That's just things that I've heard from people. I also know that with other or I don't know actually, but I'd be curious to know what's happening with other provincial bodies in terms of whether or not they're hiring people within the industry. I know that several LPs are actually into hiring people that have some of that knowledge, but I'm not totally sure. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if there's an appetite for equity, I guess, so that I'm struggling to explain it, but I think what that made me think of was all this medical cannabis knowledge that people have built up over the years, and now a recreational market, are they still allowed to speak about those same things? If someone comes into a recreational store and says, oh well, I can't sleep, what should I use? Will they be able to get information anymore? I'm gonna guess probably not. So
they're saying no to that, because the people are saying things like, you can't even talk about, this is what by the way, fully resist this 100%. You can't talk about it in the benefit aspect. So this is what the government has done. It's illegal to even talk about it in a benefits enhancement kind of way, and I think the government has already hysterically taken care of harm reduction. That's what they say, harm reduction. We have to make sure. But the thing that is painfully obvious to me is that if you're going to promote harm reduction, the only way you can really do that properly is to have studied the subject or the topic so well that you understand where the problems are for harm reduction. And if you have studied the topic that well, you must have also found the positives and the benefits. And so why are they only focusing on harm reduction when there is also benefits enhancement? And I really think we're getting close to lawsuit time because these people are deliberately sitting on that knowledge. 100%.
Totally. I mean, that, what you've said just there is, like, precisely the reason I wrote my book, because I was like, well, like, we hear all this stuff about how cannabis... Can I swear on the show? Is that okay?
Yes, you can swear on the show. Kim
Okay, cool.
is laughing
well, we
now.
hear all this shit, if you will.
Yeah.
That cannabis is just this terrible thing, and it's so bad for us, and it's going to make us, like... The thing I always think of is, like, that commercial with the egg frying in the pan, and this is your... drugs. Like, no, man, like, I don't know. So with the book, really what I wanted to do there was explain that there are, like, benefits to cannabis use, and obviously explaining them with you know, scientific information and talking to experts. But it's totally unfair that the government doesn't want to talk about this or want to discuss it. Like, we have 300,000 signups in the medical cannabis program in Canada. I know there are so many more people outside of that, but just that number alone, like, doesn't that, I mean, to me, that's like that's a pretty large number of people who are experiencing, you know, profound benefit from this plant.
Yeah.
Why are we not talking about them? You know, I don't know.
It's amazing. They're getting away with it because they will say, to answer your question, they will, because I've been one of these people. I am one of these people, so I know it. I know it intimately. To answer your question, the answer is, yeah, it's just anecdotal. You know, it's not really solid evidence. So basically, your article that you wrote about me is just anecdotal, and it is. It is anecdotal, but they don't seem to care that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of anecdotes, all similar, and they don't seem to want to get on it. But they will put an anecdote story out. So there was this one. There was a story a few weeks ago. I mean, they're so embarrassing to me. I don't know who I hate more, the government or the press at this point. But they put a story out a few weeks ago, the CBC again, about a man in, I think it's Yellowknife, and forgive me if I'm wrong, it might be Whitehorse, but it's one of those places up north and freezing cold. But anyway, he was concerned, and they went up there to interview this guy. Jeez, talk about anecdotal. They went up to talk to this guy about the fact that with legalization coming soon, he is greatly concerned because he's allergic to cannabis smoke. I mean, this guy lives in Yellowknife. One guy is allergic to cannabis smoke, and I mean, even if he's telling the truth, buddy, don't stand near people smoking weed? I don't know, I guess. But how much more anecdotal is one guy saying, you know, it's like the peanut allergy almost. Like, oh yeah, no, I can't eat that stuff. So one guy is saying he can't have cannabis smoke around him, and this is a big story. The CBC can cover that. That's interesting. That's a Canadian angle. They can't cover my aspect of the story though. It's pretty funny to me what they call anecdotal and what they don't. And why that even matters. Like if 1,000 people are telling you the same anecdote, maybe listen.
Yeah, that's such a good, yeah, I mean, that's crazy, that story. It's so funny. I was at this event a few weeks ago, and it wasn't a cannabis event. It was like a health conference, and there's a woman there talking to me. She was asking me a bunch of questions, and she said, you know, oh, like, I'm so afraid of the smell, and it really irritates me. And her idea was that everyone who smokes cannabis should have to purchase this like spray and use it after they consume because it irritates people's. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know, I don't know how well that's gonna fly.
Yeah, it's not gonna fly.
It's kind of interesting that people think that that's a thing. I don't know. I mean, it's like, yes, I'm sure there are people with allergies to cannabis, but yeah, it's interesting that the media decided that was like they would fly there. And
yeah, I used to really get tired of cigarette smoke, and so what I would do, I mean, call me radical. People already do. What I used to do is I used to leave the bar where the smoking was going on. When I realized, like, I can't do this anymore. And of course they don't have that anymore. But at the time it was like, when it got to the point where it's too much smoke in the bar, like, I mean, I remember this at the town pump in Vancouver, and you'd have to just leave and go outside for a little bit before you could go back in. But then there's a garbage truck rolling by in the middle of August that stinks like you can't believe. Then there's a guy with the purple cherry grape vaping clouds. Then there's an Indian restaurant. They got cumin going through the heating vent. Like, there's smells in the society, so you can't really complain about one of them.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
I just don't understand why that's an anecdote that we can tell, and these other ones that might save our life and have saved our life cannot be told or bragged about. But I'd like to thank you for writing your book, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to tip the light against it. Like, I don't want any more hassle in my life based on everything that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years. I really don't. But on the other hand, I kind of wouldn't mind getting arrested and going to court and having to talk about all this stuff on the witness stand and have to be covered by the friggin' news. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of be careful what you wish for type of thing. I'd really like someone else to go through it. But if I am in that position, they're not going to be too thrilled with my time on the stand.
No, I'm sure you articulate all that very well. Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's just this like skewed perspective when it comes to cannabis. I mean, I kind of just wanted to flip the narrative, and I hope that more people are like, they say with legalization, you'll be finding out who in your community or who in your friend group is consuming, because people will be coming out of the woodwork. Well, I hope that that's true, because it's really, the stigma is what's holding us all back from it. And like, it's, even though we've like legalized it, that doesn't mean that everyone's mind has just like collectively changed on October 17th. Like, people are still so like, I don't know, working in cannabis, sometimes you're in this like little bubble where everyone's talking about it and it's totally fine. And then you realize that there's still so many people out there that are like, oh, it's the devil's lettuce, and like totally still using those words. And I'm like, this is insanity. Like, I don't know.
I think the devil, personally, my take on the devil is, like, in his bag of tricks, he's not using lettuce. Anyway, so those people are paranoid to me. So before we, I just want to get to your book and stuff like that. But I just wanted to ask you a couple of things. So I'm coming from the perspective of an Ontarian. Apparently, we had somewhere around 40,000 transactions made at the online weed store, the OCS in Ontario, around the time when they said they had lost control of things or something like that. And then anyway, now they think there was like 100,000 or so transactions made, a lot of which have not been completed properly. But basically, so what I'm saying is, the day before that, no one was buying weed from the government. So the day that they did start to buy weed from the government, fascinating to me that the day before was a big stock dump. Those guys knew it wasn't going to go the way that it should. But on the day that they actually started trading it, they made like 100,000 exchanges of 100,000 purchases. And that's probably like if I bought 10 grams. They're all different. So that's 10 purchases per person kind of thing. And so the thing I was kind of interested in is Ontario got about 100,000. BC had something like 5 or 7,000 people only?
Yeah, because everybody, I know, right? And people laugh, but I'm kind of like, well, that's
what's the story on that? How did
in BC, well, I mean, in Vancouver, many of the dispensaries, or not many of them, but there's still a bunch of them that are open. A lot of them, there's, before October 17th, there were, I want to say close to 100, probably, maybe just under, maybe closer to 80 that were still operating. And then I think a lot of them did close on the 17th, but a bunch of them are still running.
Yeah.
So that's one reason,
okay,
especially in Vancouver. And reason number two is in areas outside of like big cities like Vancouver or Victoria, where you might still have dispensaries. Everyone just has like a guy who you can call, and he'll come to your door with a couple different kinds of weed, and you don't have to wait 3 days for it to be shipped, and you can look at it and smell it and do all these things. And I think a lot of people are like, government weed, like, no thanks. I already got my connection, and I'm just sticking with it. And I think that's that has a lot to do with it. You know, like for a lot of people, nothing has really changed. It's a huge part of the culture here, especially in areas like the Kootenays,
Sure.
and so I think like those populations are sort of like, nah, we're just gonna keep doing what we do until the government either makes it of better quality or of prices that maybe are more preferable for people. But yeah, I think it's going to be like this for a little while. That's my personal take.
Okay, well, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I was more proud for the reasons you said. I thought, well, that's BC. They still have they've still got dispensaries. They're not going to rush into the arms of the government, to be able to purchase this. And I thought it was very funny how small that number was for the official sales.
It is
But
funny.
so and then they tell you like over time it's just going to have to be this way and you're just going to have to do it this way, and it's so not realistic. I said just before you came on that the folks that designed this whole system are like, well, it's the law and it's the rule and this is the way it has to go, and it's just not really going that way. Like these are the people that don't perceive properly, not us.
Yep, I know. It's definitely, I think, going to be a bit of a challenge
Yeah.
to win people over with this. Yeah. For
Okay, so you've decided though that part of the challenge to win people over, I suppose, is writing a book. So good for you
sure.
for doing it and finding the time to do it. I'm
Oh, sorry.
trying to become that same thing myself. It's so hard to find pockets of time where it's feasible to write a book, and everything I've written
Oh,
before has been deliberately trying to been funny as opposed to a book. So it's a whole monster for me. But so hats off for you doing it in the first place.
cheers. Well,
Tell us how you got started though in the weed in the first place before we even
oh,
hear about your book. Like little Amanda is a young girl. She's never even tried it before. Why did you get involved with it?
okay. Well, the first time I ever smoked pot, I was 14. I was at a punk rock show in Richmond, BC, which is my hometown, and I was selling merch
Oh wow.
for a band. And I just had tried it like a little bit from a pipe, and nothing really happened. And I didn't really use it a lot in high school. It wasn't until I was like in university really that I like started using it more consistently. And when I did, I noticed that like I would drink a lot less, like I would not be hungover in the morning, I would be more focused when I was taking time to work or when I was working on stuff in school. Just like these kind of little benefits, like I was sleeping better, things like that. And then, just I guess that was probably 10 years ago or so. So I've been kind of consistently a cannabis consumer for a little while. And yeah, I guess writing sort of started when I was working at the Straight, and I had written a few things about cannabis, and there was like a piece that I had written. I think it was a story about Tommy Chong. It was an interview I had done with him, and he was like, "Okay, we're gonna talk for 15 minutes," but then we ended up talking for like 45,
Oh, that's
and it was like
good.
the coolest thing ever. The guy just gave me like all these insane stories about him growing up in Vancouver, and I was like, "This is so cool! I just want to write about cannabis." And then like the next week, my editor sat me down and they were like, "Do you want to focus on marijuana?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so here I am. I guess it's sort of that was about a year and a half or 2 years ago, and yeah, it's pretty wonderful, pretty exciting.
It's nice to know that you've got a passionate interest that apparently is paying for your way to get through the world, right? And that's pretty neat.
I guess so, a little bit. Yeah, I never expected to be writing about cannabis. Truly, like it's cool. I'm not taking it for granted. I think it's every day I'm like, wow, like what's going on? This is wild. I'm just kind of blown away by all of it. But it's really interesting to think that something that was so vilified when I was like a kid, the first time I used it, even like
Yeah.
I don't know. Still something that my dad is like, every time my dad sees like a piece of paraphernalia, he's like, if I don't know, he offers to, he has great dad jokes like, "Oh, do you want me to put that in the recycling for you?" Or, "Oh, do you want me to smash that bong with a hammer for you?" Like, very like anti-cannabis. So coming from that, and now like it's part of my career. It's a trip.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
totally a
this
trip.
is going to be anecdotal, and this is going to be a bit probing, but just bear with me. And if you don't want to answer, that's fine.
Growing's
Um,
cool. Fun.
you have broken a cardinal sin.
Ooh.
It's okay. So have I done. Lots of people have. Don't worry. I'm not beating up on you. You've broken a cardinal sin in that you have used cannabis before you are 25 years old. And so in this, I can now understand that your brain doesn't work properly. You're not getting anything done in your life, and you're a bit of a
No.
loser, and your brain has been damaged. Would you plead guilty to any of those counts?
I would say no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, that whole notion has a lot to do with stigma, has a lot to do with fear. I mean, almost every like cannabis user that I know, perhaps not consistently when they were in high school, but at least like the first time they consumed was definitely before the age of 25.
Yeah.
Certainly before the age of 18 for a lot of them, and so I think it's hard for people to grasp that sort of notion that like being under 25 and consuming cannabis is just inherently so bad for you.
Yeah.
When so many people who have done that are like doing well for themselves. Maybe some of them are CEOs of some of these
Yeah.
LPs, and so I wonder how young people look at that and what they make of that.
Well, I still
notion.
say it's a tool, and I still say it
like,
should be used properly. But it sounds like a lot of the people that I know who have used it prior to the time that you say you can use it are not drooling idiots like we're told they're going to be. And the thing that I really hate about it is that you see these logical fallacies everywhere in cannabis. I mean, I've noticed it for a long time in government, period, and that's why there's a conspiracy angle to this show as well. But I've noticed it in cannabis is that there's a particular series of facts about this stuff that they always want to avoid. And one of them is that if you're going to tell me that this thing is so dangerous that you don't like what it does to people's brains, and you don't think it's fair, and you don't think it's safe for people to use this substance that fucks up their brain the way they say it does, I don't know why there's one soldier going to war who's less than 26 years old. I really don't see the sensibility in that. And we've had some military folks on the show, and we've got some folks and former military folks listening, and they know what I'm talking about. I'm not making fun of them at all. I'm saying that you don't have any business sending off a 17, and they've done it, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old people. Think of how many people we have done that to in Canada, in the United States, oftentimes based on a lie. And they don't have any trouble sending these people in there. And then when they come back, they don't even care about their PTSD. But I mean, in the first place, you're going to say, oh, no, we can't do this because of the brain. They don't say that about going to war. Isn't that funny?
That's very, I've never thought of that, but that's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about. Like,
yeah,
wow.
There's a lot of these little things.
Totally. Like, I won't get super into it, but one for me is like this whole thing with advertising. We see like, and I don't like to compare alcohol to cannabis, but I don't like that we have ads for like vodka on a bus station, all of this stuff. Every young person I know has been consuming alcohol since well before the age of 18 or 19 or whatever the rule is in their province. That I think is something that we should be addressing too. But
yeah,
anyway.
it's a bit of a drag. This whole I wanted to talk about that on the show earlier today, so let me just talk about it with you. With this whole topic of making sure it's safe for kids and making sure the criminal element doesn't get involved. I mean, none of that makes sense when you even think about candy or soda pop. And now you've got this Aurora is talking with Coca-Cola about making some kind of cannabis-infused sickly sweet treat, and we're going to hear how terrible that shit is, and not because of the 10 tablespoons of sugar that are in it, because of the 1/10 of 1 nanogram of weed that they're probably going to put in this thing. You know, but I don't understand how we can live in a series of, like, credibly live in a series of laws and rules laid out by people who say, oh, we're so worried about the kids and we totally fucked that up. Oh, and by the way, pretty soon candies and Coca-Cola are going to have weed in it, but we think it's dangerous. Like, they don't make any sense. Like, there's no credibility from any of their position, you know. I guess that's why I don't follow any of their advice, I suppose.
Contradicting stuff for sure.
But what are we going to do now? Where they're going straight into, like, I don't even know if this Coca-Cola with cannabis is going to be like a booze-laden thing. I mean, we've heard about booze companies are going to put some weed in their alcoholic beverages, and we've got pop companies are going to put weed in. Are they also? Like, is the Coca-Cola also going to be a boozy Coca-Cola or just a weed? But anyway, this is all way too soon for me. This is all, you don't even have the kids thing figured out as the government. You don't have any of that figured out. You got people in Ontario who literally, legally can't even have the weed they're legally able to get because it hasn't been legally delivered to their legal house yet. You know what I mean? Like, this whole thing is so badly planned. I can't understand why we're going down here with Coca-Cola now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's
and you know,
so that's too quick of a step for sure.
Too quick of a step. Well, tell us about your book. What's the name of your book?
Totally. My book is called The Little Book of Cannabis: How Marijuana Can Improve Your Life. And so yeah, that's basically. I mean, the title is just quite telling.
It sounds illegal to me. Are you even allowed to have that?
It's a little bit rebellious, and I've actually. Yeah, there are some people who have gone on Amazon and just totally, like, based on the title alone, given me, like, shite reviews. So if you have read my book and you enjoyed it, I'd ask you to go give me some love.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's basically what I do is I tackle 10 different ways that cannabis can be used to improve your life. I start with sleep, and then I move on to stress and anxiety. There's a chapter on mood and creativity. There's some, like, sort of fun chapters. There's even a chapter on sex, and then there's some chapters on some more medicinal uses like pain management. There's a chapter on support for cancer treatment. You're in that one.
Yeah, sure, because we also talk for the book, yeah.
Totally. And then a chapter on sort of the exit drugs, so the idea that using cannabis can sort of help you reduce your use of opioids and other prescription drugs. So not just them, but there's 10 in total. Everything's kind of backed up with lots of science. I have like 10 or 20 pages of citations in the back, interviewed lots of experts, kind of created my own little case studies for each chapter. So yeah, it's like a total labor of love, and I'm so happy that it's not just a PDF on my computer anymore.
Oh yeah, I guess. This is the book. It's The Little Book of Cannabis: How Marijuana Can Improve Your Life. Amanda Siebert. The foreword by Dr. Ray Ivker. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so that's there's another book called The Little Black Book of Marijuana. That's another fella, but I'm sure that's also interesting. But Amanda's book is this. So let's get into let's have some fun here. With your book. Sounds like you got a bit of a problem with, let's see. Okay, let's see here. Let's double load today. Hang on a second. All right, it says here that you got a bunch of good reviews on here. You got 6 reviews on the Canadian Amazon. And let's go to Jamie Lanny. I think that's the name of the person.
That is the one, I believe.
November 3rd. I love the way your book came out on Legalized Day, October 17th. That's so cool. Did you plan that?
No, well, we rushed it a little bit. It was going to come out on the 30th, and then my publisher was like, well, when they announced the date, we kind of decided we would rush it a little bit. So.
Oh, okay. Well, this is nice. You've got a lot of great things. This guy, High Marks, he says, want to know practically everything about the benefits of cannabis? Accomplished journalist, and I have to back him up on that one. I have to back him up there. Amanda Siebert has the answers in this remarkable little book, etc., etc. Thoughtful and honest guide to the positive aspects of cannabis. Because, like I said, we've already got the government telling us about harm reduction. We need people like Amanda Siebert writing a book and telling us the good stuff. This person didn't buy it on Amazon, says they met you at an event, found you to be passionate and knowledgeable on the subject, which obviously so have I, etc., and everything else. Cute and concise guide to cannabis, etc., etc. Now listen to this one. I love these. This is, people say don't read the bad reviews. I love the bad reviews. I don't get enough of those. Cannabis or marijuana is not something that can improve your life. Categorically out of the box, demonstrably untrue, Jamie. So, before you even got to your first comma, you're incorrect. But anyway, go on. Due to the fact there are no studies that show its efficacy as a medicine. What the fuck? I can't even count.
Yeah, right?
I can't.
Zero. Okay.
One second here. I can't even understand why this is even happening. Somebody calling me from somewhere. I don't know what that means. Anyway, listen to this. GW says, there are no studies that show its efficacy as a medicine. I mean, I don't even have the time to sit here and cite them all. I can think of 24 right off the top of my head that I was just reading over the weekend. And that's just recent, like over the past 5 years. Never mind all the stuff from before.
Totally.
This is why legalization is important. Sorry to get off on a jag here, but honest to God, like the stuff you're doing in your book, the stuff I'm trying to get out on this podcast and other people that I'm trying to bring the news, the truth of it to, is because once they made it illegal in 1937 in the States and before that in Canada, 1937 and 1947, that's 10 years gone right there. And then in 1947, it got really serious. And then around 15, 18 years later, then they decide, oh, yeah, there's got THC and some other healthful stuff. They figure that out in Israel. And then like another, what was it, 10 or 12 years later, then Dr. Grinspoon comes out with his thing and for Harvard, and he nails it. And that's good news. But that was in the 70s. And they don't do anything, and they make it harder to get. And then all of a sudden, it's 1999, and in Britain, they're saying, oh, yeah, this stuff is great now. It's not even an anecdote anymore, and now they're just finally changing it to legal. So this is why we can't have mistakes now. This is why I can't wait for Bill Blair to figure it out. This is why we can't let people go, oh well, let's just see how it goes, at least it's legal. No, I'm not waiting 5, 10, 20 years again. No, you are fucking it up. If you were putting your teepee together upside down up on the reservation, I would tell you probably got it backwards. You got it upside down. If you're putting the wheels on before you've actually built the body of the car, you're not getting anywhere, right? Like, so these people. So this guy says GW Pharmaceuticals aside, who have come up with a derivative for a rare and very serious form of childhood epilepsy. This person doesn't know what they're talking about. Yeah, GW Pharmaceuticals came up with CBDs for $33,000 a year, and you can get it a lot cheaper than that, okay? The Canadian government's health watchdog says no one should use the marijuana cannabis for any reason, including for a medical condition, if they are under the age of 25. Have a history of substance use disorder, are a man who wants to start a family, are a woman who is pregnant, thinking of becoming pregnant or breastfeeding, add to that the risk of addiction or suicide or a mental psychotic break, which this letter sounds like to the T, of car accidents, of cognitive damage, heart and stroke and risk, and you get the picture. Cannabis cannot improve your life, but it sure can ruin it or the lives of those you share your life with, who see you go down this path. Serious stuff, and this book should not be on the shelf. Give it a pass and do yourself and your loved ones a favor.
Is that good?
I mean, this is like a person who's at the top of a hill with a giant sign that says, I don't really know anything, and I want to make sure everybody knows this. But thank God for writing it, Jamie. I don't know where you got all that stuff, but my goodness, what a, and this is going to be a person who has not sullied their mind with cannabis, and there's a whole bunch of sentences there that didn't quite work out. Anyway, so I'm really stunned about it. What does American, what's the thing in the States? Have you been able to release your book in America, or what's your story with them?
Yeah, so you can get it on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble, and I think that same person is just like going around to every site and just whatever, but that's fine. I don't know. There's definitely an air of similarity to some of the reviews, but I'm trying to just like
the negative reviews, yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I think that there are going to be people with these perspectives, and my hope is that I'm not asking anyone to change their mind per se. There you're not into it right away, that's fine. But maybe just like suspend your disbelief just for a little bit, like while you're reading this or whatever. Not even my book. Like I don't care. Something else. Read. There's tons of literature out there. And when people say like no studies, I'm like, well, then what the fuck did I use in all of my citations? Like, were those just like nursery rhymes? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it's irritating, but it just kind of shows you the spectrum of people that are out there. And
I had a conversation with a friend a while ago. He said, well, there's no studies of any of that kind of nature in Canada at all. And I said, well, actually, there are in Canada. But even if they weren't, the fact that I learned how to boil water at 212 degrees in, Bulgaria doesn't mean it's not going to happen in New York, right? So it's 212 degrees. That's just a fact. You don't need to check that anywhere else. That's it. We're done. And it's the same with a lot of the cannabis science. It's like, don't tell me there's nothing. This is the problem. These people have come up. These people, I sound like Seinfeld. These people have been coming together, putting together rules and laws based on going into foreign countries and invading them for wars based on a lie. They've already been doing that. And now at home, they are drafting punitive and repressive legislation and access legislations that make it more difficult without any, again, they're using an omission of the truth and a denial of facts to be able to do this. Like just the very thought of saying, you can't say anything good about cannabis or that's illegal, okay? What about the fact that it does actually have positive values? What am I supposed to do with that fact?
Yeah, totally. I don't know. Write about it. That's what you should do.
I know. I'm trying. I mean,
I think you're going to do a great job. I'm very excited to read that.
Now, I'm a little disappointed that I found out, from your book and being in the book, I'm a bit disappointed that you only asked me about the cancer aspect and not about the sexual aspect. I mean, who are you talking to for that?
Maybe it'll be a second book, and I'll put you on the list for reference if you're interested in talking about that. That was actually a really fun chapter to read or to write.
I'll bet it is to read it. Yeah. So let's spend a bit of time on it. Everybody loves sex. Sex sells. Let's put a sex conversation near the end of our podcast today. We're coming close to the end. I have to thank you so much for your time, Amanda, and setting it aside and getting this information out here, because I already know so much about this. If I just sit here and say this, it sounds like an idiot talking all day, right? So it's great to have a person who's actually found the time, who's not an idiot, who could put a book together like I need to do. But how do you how do you feel like things are going to go for you if you try to cross the border? I mean, it's across the American border.
Honestly, I'm a little bit terrified. Living in Vancouver, I'm so close to the border. Like before I was writing about cannabis, I would go to like Trader Joe's or shopping or whatever really quick over the border. But I haven't done that in a while, and I feel like even if I left my phone at home and did all the things that people say you're supposed to do, I mean, my name is next to like how cannabis can improve your life on the everywhere. And so I feel like,
how do you even think about it? Like, how do you plan that? Are you going to just not go there?
I mean, I'm going to probably, if I do, I would like test by going to the, like maybe driving across. I would be a little bit afraid to fly. I don't know. I would have to talk to people. But what I hear from people who are like working in the industry is that they're fine, but then those people are also like not as kind of face forward, like doing media about cannabis maybe as I am. And so, but I also like look at the States right now, the political climate there, and I'm like, well, I got no reason to go there. Like,
right. Yeah, I said that before. I go, right now we have less option to go to that place than ever before, but it's happening at a time where you got less reason to want to go.
Exactly. So I don't know. My idea is like, I think eventually the states are going to have to legalize cannabis at the federal level. I think it's maybe quicker than we expect, and when that happens, then maybe I will feel more confident traveling to the States.
Well, I sure hope we get that going on. I really do. It turns out that in Rolling Stone magazine, which is a global mind control tactic that must be stopped. But anyway, the Trump administration has okayed a deal to import cannabis from Canada. The deal provides researchers in California with capsules that contain CBD and THC, and it comes after U.S. officials suggested barring Canadians involved with cannabis from entering the country. So this has been a bit scary for all kinds of people. But that's what they're saying now in the United States. And, of course, there's all kinds of trouble in the United States, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, with the volatility of American politics. So who knows where they're going to go with this. But I sure hope, with Jeff Sessions gone, they got this other guy now, but whatever. I hope that they get that this is a, federally in the states, come on, most of the states can sell this and use it. I don't see how the feds can not use it. Or criminalize people who want to come across with something that's legal where they got it and legal where they're going. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me to be anything else other than, on board with it.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think, like, this medical deal where the DEA, like, approved the first importation of cannabis from Canada, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's really gonna, like, if we look back at how, like, other countries have sort of approached, implementing a medical cannabis program, a lot of it started with, like, increased research. And I think that once, this deal goes down, this study happens, I think there was even a motion put forward or something. I'm not sure how far it's gone through the American government yet, but this idea that there would be more places created in the United States where people could obtain cannabis. Right now, researchers who want to research weed in the States have to go through NIDA, and the product is crap. That's the National Institute of Drug Abuse, I think, or something. And basically, the cannabis that they get is just garbage. And so, so they're hoping to create more places where they would obtain cannabis. So I think just by that, by the cannabis coming in from Canada, that it's something that will happen sooner than we think, hopefully.
We'll see. But seriously, though, this whole sexual aspect, like, how do you find it manifest? What do you do? Like, when you consume it, you just get a little more sensual, or what do you figure is happening there?
Totally. So there's a couple of different things that are happening based on the information that I got from the experts that I spoke with. So one of them was Lisa Mamakind Kirkman. She's in Calgary. She's awesome. She's written her own book called Sex Pot, and it's literally about sex and pot. And so what she sort of explained to me in her experience, cannabis, when she was, consuming it, she sort of felt more confident when she was out on evenings with friends. She felt more approachable, and the way that she sort of explains it, I mean, like, before she would initiate sex with somebody, I mean, you have to meet them, you have to talk to them, you have to connect with them on some level. And the way she explained it to me, I'll quote her here. She said, smoking cannabis, you're usually standing in a circle doing something illegal, and it forces everybody together into a little group. It's a very intimate experience in and of itself. And so I love the way she describes that. I mean, like, the way cannabis can sort of be like a gateway to meeting people, but also, like, even if you're in a relationship or what have you, if there's that potential for it to sort of be an aphrodisiac, maybe you suffer from chronic pain, or maybe sometimes your mind goes different places during sex. Some people have found that cannabis can actually sort of center them, help them keep their minds focused. Lisa told me that, it makes her more aware of what her partner wants, but also more aware of what she wants. So all these things that, like, people often struggle with sex. So I thought
just rolls it out. Yeah,
really fun chapter to write.
So now we're at this juncture where we're pretty much getting close to say goodbye. But I just wanted to say, so the mystique, the magic of what we've just been talking about with the sexual. I'm not trying to be like a little kid, but I do know that there is a it's hard to even describe it, but I noticed it when I was very, very sick, and for some time I had been, not to get too graphic, but I had been, sort of unable and or uninterested, given my certain situation, to. But I found that the cannabis was actually changing that in these little brief bursts, like, just like even the thought of it was you could tell planted there by the plant itself, as opposed to I was sitting there thinking this, and it has definitely added to a sensual awareness. But this is the question that I wanted to leave you with, and
Okay.
in the sexual way, in a research way, in a punch-up way, when I write something, I don't know about you, but I know I got this from George Carlin directly, punch-up time. He doesn't use cannabis to write comedy, but he uses it to punch up comedy once he's written it later on. So I don't know how you were with writing your book and stuff, but then you have people saying how it helps their sleep, and then you have people like myself talking about their cancer and all these other maladies and all these other social conditions, etc., and getting off of opioids. What do you think? We are sitting here, you're writing books about it, we are talking about a plant that can so do all of these things, and we are always so regularly told it's crazy to think that just one plant could do all that stuff. You guys are nuts. But we're really in a place where that thing really does so much stuff. And it's just a matter of you accept this and you read the research or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting place to be. I think the thing for me that has always allowed me to, or enabled me to sort of shift my perspective on an issue is when I have, and I think it is for many people, for everyone maybe, when you have a personal experience with something, or when you see something firsthand. And so I'll get a little bit personal here. My parents have been super anti-cannabis for a long time, but my mother is slowly coming around. I have her, on topicals and things. She hasn't consumed or ingested anything just yet, but and no pressure. If she wants to, that's cool. But she actually because of my experience with it, I write about it in the book a little bit. This past winter, I guess about a year ago, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and she sort of saw how it kind of normalized me. It leveled me out. It really takes care of all of my symptoms in a way that no pill or whatever really has been able to do. And so her seeing that has allowed her to sort of realize oh yeah, this does have a place, and she's open to talking about it. I tell her other ways that people use it, and she's slowly getting more interested, and I think that sort of experience is what's going to slowly start shifting people's minds about cannabis. It's just going to take people talking about it a little bit more openly, I think.
Well, that sounds like a fair enough input. Well, I appreciate that. I like the way you found me. It was great to be speaking with someone that doesn't. This was a bigger deal for me, and I've been through so many interviews, etc., through the course of my entertainment career and as a comedian. And you read the thing later, and it's oh God, I never said that. That's not what I meant. That's not what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, I just committed to the process. You and I spoke for over an hour, and then you came out with this piece that I was I was almost dreading it, well, here we go. There's going to be this, and it was it's been so helpful. And I send it to people who, if they say they don't, what's happened? I haven't seen you in 3 years or whatever it is. I'll send them that article.
Oh, cool.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's really nice of you to have written it. And I really thank you for contributing to the revelation of truth.
Oh, well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. I really do enjoy it. And it's been lovely to converse with someone who also gets it.
Oh, that's yeah. Well, I could talk to you all day just on that fact alone, and even if we weren't doing a show. So a lot of the people that you'll speak with in your day, they don't. You can tell there's no one there. They're not idiots, but they don't see this, and they don't get it, and they don't believe it, and they do believe all the hype against it for the years. And you could tell you're just dealing with two different kinds of people. Do you know this is a puppet show, or do you think those little things are really actors? So, but anyway, Amanda Siebert, I'm so happy you were able to write a book, and thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it. Once again, you can get Amanda's book on the regular places. Can you get it anywhere else? And where else can we find you? We can get it on Amazon. And once again, give us the full title of your book.
Totally. It's the Little Book of Cannabis: How Marijuana Can Improve Your Life. You can find it on Amazon.ca, at Indigo, your local bookstores, pretty much wherever you buy books. That's where you'll be able to find it.
Amazing.
And you can find me at Amanda_Siebert, really challenging, on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on Green Crush, and it's been really great getting to know you over the time, and I hope we can spend some more time together. You know, at one of these events. Maybe I'll be out there, maybe you'll be out here.
I would enjoy that. Thanks so much.
See how it goes. You're welcome. Thank you very much, Amanda. We will speak with you again later. Take care. I was just speaking with Amanda Siebert on the old Skyperino. That's not what they call it. Maybe if I stopped calling it Skyperino, it would work better for me. Who knows? You know what? We're gonna do another one of these shows. I didn't really want to do them anymore. I thought, you know, here comes a bad bunch of laws. I'm gonna tell you why we don't need those laws. I'm gonna ask you to contact your government to come up with something better than that. And they didn't do it. Came up with a pile of shit. So I guess instead of telling you what might be coming and how we need to get around things, we're just going to deal with what is. Like when Health Canada asks 102 drug manufacturers and distributors to stop marketing opioids, and only 25 of them responded.
Everything's going to be fine.